Okay, so this is my eighth screencast concerning the Youth and Government Appeals Court in 2015, and I'm just going to leave it on this screen, and this is really just an overview of everything that we've talked about. So again, when you're doing appeals court this year, the big difference is you will be arguing several times because you are not doing trial court at the same time. You will argue both sides of the case, and depending on the number of teams, that could be several times. So we need you to be flexible but ready to have a lot more opportunities to argue these cases than you have in the past. I will scroll down. This is the first page of the problem set of documents that you had. It's important to remember that you'll be in teams of two and that you will be we broke this case down into two questions. You're going to be looking at the notice question that we've talked about before versus the undue burden. Let's be very clear. When you divide your work, you are going to pick one of those two questions and learn to argue it from both sides. That's the way you want to approach your case. So one of you is going to be on the notification side, both for the respondent and appellant, and one of you is going to be on the undue burden side, both for respondent and appellant. Then you will have 20 minutes to make your argument. You will tell the clerk of the court how you're going to divide your time ahead of time. Remember that appellants do get rebuttal, so within your 20 minutes, you can use up to 5 minutes for rebuttal. So I'm not suggesting any times, but an appellant team would not be unusual if they said, the first question we're going to do 9 minutes, the second question 8, we're going to leave 3 minutes for rebuttal. On the respondent side, you do not get rebuttal, and so you'll divide your time as you see fit. Again, the key thing is you will announce that ahead of time, and each side only has that 20 minutes. The appellant side doesn't get any additional time for rebuttal. Then, moving back to these questions, what I tried to overview here is just a way to think about each of these questions. If you are looking at the notification question, basically it breaks down along these lines. If you are arguing for Abercrombie, who's the appellant, you are arguing that because Eloff did not make a specific request for a religious accommodation, she did not notify Abercrombie. If you are arguing on the respondent side, the EEOC that is representing Eloff, you are arguing for a more flexible approach. What you want to do is you want to look through the documents we've given you, find court cases that support either the more strict interpretation for Abercrombie or the more loose interpretation for Eloff, and some of the reasoning. And what I mean by reasoning is if the court argues or agrees, or decides, I should say, one way, here are some of the positive and negative things that could happen. So if they side with Abercrombie, the opposite side is going to argue, here are the negative things that could come. If they side with Eloff, basically Abercrombie is arguing, here are the other negative things. You're combining reasoning and logic with past court precedent, meaning decisions, to support your argument. If you are on the undue burden side, this basically breaks down into the degree you think the evidence Abercrombie provided is reliable. Abercrombie is going to argue that they had several experts testify that this would do harm to Abercrombie and Fitch. The EEOC is going to argue that their information was speculative and not data-driven. You want to look for court cases that support the Abercrombie side, that it does not have to be super precise. You're going to be looking for court precedent on the Eloff side that says that they do have to be more data-driven and precise. Again, you will find other ways to argue that case, but that's the key summary. The last thing I would say is make sure you know when you read the beginning of it that the facts in the case are accepted facts. And so we are not going to dispute those. There is, for instance, no doubt that Eloff did not talk about her religious issues with the look policy. It is not disputed that Gannett, for instance, said she knew Eloff was Muslim and that she was wearing a head covering because she was a Muslim. The stuff in the original part of the case that we went through, those are the facts of the case, and they are accepted. What you really want to try to argue is, based on the general guidelines I've just sent out, that you have court decisions and reasoning that support your side versus when you're on the other side, court decisions and reasoning that support that side. And I appreciate you listening to these. I hope they've been somewhat helpful and will continue to offer you assistance as we move through the fall. Thank you.